I'm Venktesh Shukla, Chair of TiEngines. Thanks for having me on the show.
So you're an entrepreneur, and I'm really interested to hear what was your first story testing the waters of entrepreneurship?
You know, the first one was quite an interesting one. I was in a big company, and this startup was approaching me, and they had approached me for 5-6 months, and finally I went there, and it was quite a ride. I mean, we sold our company for $260 million, put a lot of money in my pocket, and I got hooked, and so never looked back.
Perfect. Just keep going. Okay, so what is your first? What is the best advice that you've received? What is the best advice that you've received from a business advisor?
You know, I think for a startup, the most difficult thing to do is to create a market. I think the startups succeed those who sell to an existing market rather than create a new market. The companies who can create new markets, like Steve Jobs was able to do with this iPad. I mean, those things are extremely difficult for a startup to pull off. So you know, if you're trying to come out with something in the market that people don't know they need, it's a very tough challenge for a startup. So the best advice I got was that don't try to create a market, sell to an existing market something that's better. And I learned that through myself painfully.
So let's talk about pain now. Let's talk about tell us about your biggest failure.
The biggest failure really was this thing, my company on mobile internet, which was about 10 years ahead of its time. We developed a platform that allowed people to deploy apps, to develop apps once and deploy everywhere. Now, if you were doing this a year or 2 years ago, that would be fabulous. But we were doing it 10 years ago. iPhone wasn't there. The Android stuff were not there. So people had these small phones, and they really didn't do a huge amount of data entry on those things. So we were too far ahead of the time, and that's a very tricky balance in a startup. You have to be a little bit ahead of the market, so that so you start developing in anticipation of the market coming up, and so the market hits, you are ready. But if you are too far ahead, that could be a kiss of death, and that's what happened. Now I've been involved with 4 or 5 different startups as an executive, as a CEO, as a founder, and a lot more as an investor, as a board member, as an advisor. And recently, after selling my last company, I started this TiEngines network, and this has turned out to be quite a draw. Now we have 75 individual investors, and we meet once a month, and we typically fund one company a month, and so far we have invested about $3 million already in 6 companies. So, people who want to approach us for funding, it's pretty simple. You go, all processes online. You go to www.sv, stands for Silicon Valley, sv.tie.org. And there you'll see a button for TiEngines on the right. Just click that button, and you'll be on our page. And it's a pretty self-explanatory. It's a pretty simple process, really, and we'll hear about it to you right away.